Hi, this is Joe Rabil from Rabil Stock Research with your Daily 5 today. I wanted to highlight some individual stocks that are showing up in my nightly reviews that look attractive. We're definitely seeing some deterioration in certain areas which have been strong. And so I thought it would be worthwhile just to show where I think some of the money is flowing right now. So let's go ahead and get into our daily 5. And I want to start with Becton Dickinson. So I've got my 4 time frames up, and the monthly chart is in the bottom left. And I want to zero in on this for a second, because if we look at what has taken place, this stock broke out of a base back in 2013 and made a big run to the upside. And it got pretty extended, especially when you look at it from a MACD standpoint. Look at how far away it got from its zero line on a monthly chart. And yeah, it made one more run to the upside, but the MACD didn't keep pace, and that was sort of a sign that we were going to go through some sort of a correction pattern. And now notice how we've spent a decent amount of time working sideways, and these lines have come together. Where they were apart here, now they've come together. The MACD line has worked its way all the way back down to the zero area. We have low ADX, and during this phase, while we've had some wild swings, we had one little poke where red crossed above 25, but then it quickly dropped back down, and really green has stayed on top of red, meaning positive DI, or the strength of the buyers, has stayed above the seller's negative DI. And when I see that from an ADX standpoint with a zero line reversal and low ADX, it's usually a sign that I want to be on the lookout for some potential upside. So if we look at this from a ADX standpoint, I've got low ADX on the monthly chart, I've got low ADX on the weekly chart, and I've got low ADX on the daily. And so nothing's really happening yet. But what I want to point out is that we're going to see ADX improvement on the daily chart first. This line is going to cross above 25 before the weekly will, and the weekly is going to cross before the monthly. It's just the way it works. So we want to be on the lookout for signs of strength from green DI and ADX on a daily basis. And I think you could consider, if this comes back up through this high, especially if this bar stays in the upper third of this big green bar, I think you could play this more like a probe pattern, which is I'm buying this breakout in the anticipation that, yeah, it's going to at least get to here, but potentially it might want to actually break out, especially if we see improvement on an ADX basis as this is moving higher. So it's something to watch because this is so compressed. Look at how compressed the monthly chart is. Very tight pattern. We're starting to see that on the weekly. If we get a movement in this, it should be pretty good. So it's something to keep an eye on from that standpoint. Let's go to the next stock, which is Berkshire Hathaway. The reason why I wanted to bring this up is that we've seen some corrective action and consolidation taking place in some of the financials, and this stock just doesn't really want to give back much. It's holding up exceptionally well. We've got this pattern that I like, which is we've just made a higher low in price and a lower low in MACD. It's a reverse divergence pattern. Again, we have low ADX, and again, we don't have much strength in the sellers down here. Red remains below green. Now, both are below 25, showing we don't have a lot of strength in either direction, but the last up move, this last up move registered a big reading based on the buyers, and we haven't seen any counteracting selling strength. So I'm still of the belief that the bias is to the upside. This consolidation pattern is a pause in an ongoing uptrend. So that's how I am reading that. I'd be on the watch for, there's 2 different ways this could play out. We could either get a little handle forming, a little cup and handle kind of like this, and then you'd want to buy the breakout. Or it might just go ahead and break out first. And if that's the case, look to buy the first pullback to the breakout area. I think that would be the way I would look to do that. So it's one of 2 ways that I'd be watching this, but very interesting in the way this is developing, especially with the strong ADX on the monthly chart. Let's go to CNC. A healthcare stock. Healthcare stocks have not done a whole lot over the course of this year. And if you go back and look at CNC, look at the monthly, hasn't done anything since 2018. It's just been working sideways in a consolidation pattern or a long basing pattern, if you want to call it. Low ADX on the monthly chart. Now, if you notice, we had low ADX on the weekly, and now the ADX on that weekly chart is starting to kick in. It's telling me that the momentum is starting to improve on the weekly chart. Look at the breakout. Now, what I like to see is we had this breakout area we tried to get through, and then it came down and tested a bigger support area here, and then came back up through. I think that's a pretty bullish sign. I'd like to see the volume. It's only Tuesday, so we'd like to see the volume be pretty decent bar like it was last week. Another good above average volume week. But the reality is the way this is setting up, it looks pretty attractive. It looks like a pretty legitimate breakout because it's already come back down and tested and turned back to the upside. So certainly something to watch here. Constellation Brands. So this is a little different. It's more of an evolution in the way this is developing. If we see the 18-month line, I'm outlining that here. That's the 18-month. And then look at the 18-week. Right? So if I pulled back, stock pulls back and holds the 18-month, and now on this most recent pullback held the 18-week. So I'm close to the 18 in 2 consecutive time frames. I'm kind of lifting off and respecting those lines. So I'm attracted to that. I've definitely seen some improvement in some of the consumer staple stocks, and I think this is an interesting pattern. Now we have low ADX on the monthly and low ADX on the weekly. We're currently starting to show signs that the ADX is improving on the daily. So this is a good sign. Now, one thing I would suggest, because of the way this developed, it probably isn't going to be able to break out from here. So look for some kind of a little check back and higher low. And as that starts to turn back to the upside, that would be where I would be watching for this. As long as there's no violent bars to the downside, if it's a more orderly pullback, then I think it looks pretty attractive, and it should hold somewhere in the 230 area on any kind of weakness. But a name I'd definitely be watching here. And then finally, I want to talk about General Mills, because if we look at this on the monthly chart, we've been going and forming this kind of a W pattern, very orderly, and we have low ADX not only in the ADX line, but the 2 DI lines have been below 25 for an extended period of time. So we have built up energy that has developed here. And I want to also point out that the relative strength line, which has been in a downtrend for quite some time here, has recently broken that downtrend. If I look at the trend line, it's trying to get through the moving average, but I can look at a trend line. I can see that this is starting to show signs of a turnaround relative to the S&P. So I'm attracted to that. Now, I want to look at the key time frame right now, which is this W pattern has formed on the weekly chart. But notice what has happened with the ADX. So I can see the volume pattern. I like the fact that the abnormal volume bars, the bars that are coming above the volume line, the average volume line, are green. And I think that's a good sign. That's the kind of thing you want to see. But more importantly, I like the fact that this ADX is climbing here. Now, we've tried to break out, but I think it's kind of doing it from an overbought condition. I wouldn't have a problem buying a partial position here, but consider doing some kind of a higher low, some kind of a check back. And as it turns back up through this breakout area, I think it's going to be the ultimate signal. So okay to do a little buying here if you want, but I think we're going to get a little bit of a check back and then a turn back to the upside, but definitely another stock that I think has very attractive qualities in this environment right now. So I hope you enjoyed this segment. You can contact me through LinkedIn or find my research on rabilstockresearch.com. In addition, if you'd like to learn more about trend, MACD, and ADX in multiple time frames, I have a YouTube channel and a book called Invest Like a Pro, which delves into this subject. Have a great trading day, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're gonna bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.